If you're a saxophone student, you've probably seen those fingering charts that have multiple options for the note B flat. Your music teacher at school may have shown you one fingering for the note B flat, but those other options can be very helpful and very useful if you know how and when to use them. The three different fingerings that we'll look at here are the traditional 2 plus the bottom side key fingering, the 1 and 1 fingering, and finally, the coolest of them all, the Biscay fingering. Let's think about why the different fingerings are necessary. If you understand that, it'll help you make good choices when you want to find an alternate B-flat fingering. Anytime you're switching between notes by moving one finger up and one finger down at the same time, you're likely to get a little blip in between the notes. I'll show you an example of this by switching between the notes B and C. I'll exaggerate some sloppy finger motion a little so you can hear the problem. So all of our fingering choices will aim to eliminate that blip by moving only one finger at a time. And by the way, I'll show you a solution to the problem of moving from B to C at the end of this video. We call this the 1 and 1 fingering because you'll be using the first finger on each hand. This fingering is useful when moving between the note B natural and B flat because you'll only be moving the first finger on your right hand. You can hear that that's a lot more smooth than using the traditional 2 plus the bottom side key fingering. Now, this is probably the first fingering you learned for the note B flat. However, I think of it more as an A sharp fingering because it's probably the best fingering choice for passages that involve A sharps and B naturals. It works well in key signatures that include A sharps. It also works well for chromatic passages. Now, this fingering does break some of the guidelines about avoiding contrary motion with two different fingers, but it does work well in some musical passages. In between the B key and the C key is that little key you've probably been avoiding your whole life. That little key is called the bis key. Bis is the French word for twice, and that's appropriate because you'll be using one finger to press twice as many keys at once. Shift your first finger down to cover both the B key and the bis key, and you've got the new B flat fingering. One thing to know about this fingering is that you can leave the bis key down for any note that already uses your first finger. In other words, you don't usually have to worry about shifting your finger on and off that key. Now, this fingering is especially helpful when you're playing in key signatures with a B flat in it. If you're playing a passage like G, A, B flat, the bis key can be very smooth. The finger movement feels just as if you're playing a B natural. If you're moving between D and B flat, the traditional 2 plus the bottom side key is a terrible choice. But by using the bis key, the movement is much more smooth. To help reinforce your skills with these three different B-flat fingerings we've talked about here, I've written a short little duet for you to play called Waltz for the Bflat Brothers. In the piece, I've intentionally written passages where each of the three different fingerings would be a good choice. Hopefully this will make sense when you look at the sheet music. I'll include a link to the PDF in the description below. You can download the sheet music for free. I've asked my friend Jeff Zelinka to perform this piece for us. Mr. Zelinka is an instrumental music teacher and a retired master sergeant with the Air National Guard Band. Here is Waltz for the Bflat Brothers. Now, you remember that problem of moving between B and C? Well, the solution to that is to use the side C fingering, which is the B fingering plus the middle side key with your right hand. Thanks for watching and best wishes to you as you play the saxophone.